and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be looking into the question, what can you do to open your heart to love? This can be a deepening of love if you are already in a connection, or opening up to new love if you are single. There are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Rose Quartz heart. Group 2 is the Red Jasper heart. And group 3 is the Aventurine heart. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups, or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to, I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. You chose the Rose Quartz heart. So I'm just going to be using oracle cards for this reading, and let's take a look and see what Spirit wants you to know at this time as far as what you can do to open your heart to love. That can either be new love if you're single, or a deepening of your connection with your partner if you are in a relationship. Okay, we have Run Wild for a While, Become Your Own Sovereign, Soulcraft, Channeling, Queen of the Darkwood Elves, Premonition, Foreshadowing, Mystery, and The Wild Hunt, Excitement, Frenzy, and Journey. So, kind of a double confirmation here with this Run Wild for a While and the Wild Hunt. So for some of you, the time may be ripe for you to move into receptive mode, especially if you are single. Somebody may already have their eye on you, may already be getting ready to pursue or starting to give chase, kind of planning their strategy. You may feel this energetically, or you may have met somebody recently. And so this is an encouragement for you to really tuck back into yourself and work on stilling any sense of maybe trust issues that are coming up as far as situations too good to be true. Even if there's nobody that you can sort of see in your immediate vicinity, you might be able to sense this person energetically, and it could be bringing up a lot of fears. Almost like you've set the intention for new love, it's inbound, and all of a sudden the panic sets in. Am I really ready? Is the right person going to come through? Have I done enough shadow work to clear away old habits, old cycles, or is this just going to be more of what I was accustomed to before? And there's a sense here of trusting your own intuition and your own heart as far as anybody new that comes into your life and into your reality. But basically the biggest kind of task at this point in time is just being very present with where you are. Obviously, you know, if you're in the midst of some kind of like intense shadow work or working some kind of program as far as, you know, spiritual upliftment, healing, or kind of raising your vibe or self-esteem, definitely continue forth with that. But these 2 cards also indicate that you may have completed or closed out on major cycles for yourself already, and so the need to kind of like chip away or pick away at things, it's counterproductive to the vibration and the wave of love that you're already riding, that has already kind of picked up on your signal, that is already trying to make itself kind of pronounced and known to you. So it's almost the essence of kind of embrace the version of yourself that you are in this moment. You may have been very diligent as far as going in and trying to heal, clear things out. This can even apply if you're in a current connection, or maybe you're having some back and forth, some troubles with a partner, kind of in and out energy, runner chaser, and you may have been very proactive in kind of owning your side of the equation, dealing with your own sort of issues or, wounds from the past. And there's a sense here of you've reached some kind of climax in that capacity, and it's time to sort of just let the work that you've done so far settle. Let the dust settle, let your sort of senses or your sense of self adjust to this new vibration that you've tapped into, or that you have made yourself available to within. That's kind of like the key component. Essentially, you may be trying to kind of jiggle a lock at the heart space, not really understanding that you've already opened the gate. You've already cleared something away. And that doesn't mean that kind of like work to go in and heal from the past is sort of done and over with forever. It just feels that at this particular point in time, you're in the correct proximity or alignment situationally within yourself to really just take a breather, take a step back, sit and really inventory truly just based on, kind of feelings that you have inside, beyond anxiety, beyond the sense of like, I need to clear things out, or, I'm kind of scared that maybe I haven't done enough work and I'm just going to attract the same kind of toxicity that I was dealing with before. This double confirmation is almost the essence of you have freed yourself on such a level that it's important to kind of spread your wings and fly, or, just kind of run around in that energy within. Get excited about not kind of being guarded against the worst thing that could happen, but really excited about the fact that you've transcended something within yourself. And so that in and of itself is the perfect recipe for you to start to call in, or maybe you already have called in something very new from what you were accustomed to dealing with. So for a lot of you, that heart is already open. You just can't really see that, or it's almost like you won't allow yourself to have permission to accept that at this particular point in time. There's an element here as far as kind of reinforcing this idea of sort of stepping back off of any kind of intense shadow work, which, if things are kind of triggered or sort of bubble to the surface, that might be easier said than done. But with this idea of kind of like mystery and foreshadowing with the Queen of the Darkwood Elves, this can almost be something where you're sensing change, or you're sensing that new love on the horizon. You're maybe sensing a new chapter with a current partner, or even somebody that you've had some back and forth with. They might have been doing their work, or even the work that you've done on yourself. It's changed what you're contributing to the situation. So this may be kind of like a foreshadowing or a premonition of someone coming back around, and there may be almost a questioning within, like, have I done enough? Have they done enough? Is it going to work this time? Are we finally in the place where we can move forward with one another? And there's a sense here of almost getting too much into the headspace, trying to plan too much or anticipate dangers and obstacles too much. And you're really encouraged to kind of just sit in that energy of the unknown. Allow yourself to kind of move from worst case scenario thinking to best case scenario thinking. If you've been back and forth with somebody, kind of like a runner chaser, hot, cold energy, for some of you, this may even be something that the return of a past person, even somebody that you've been trying to close the door to in order to like heal and move on toward new love, they may be cycling back around as kind of like proof to you when they present themselves, or when their energy tries to kind of penetrate your energy, or just whatever it is that looks like, or the experience is like for you. It may be something that very innately you're able to kind of organically understand. I might have been a vibrational match for this person at one point in time, or they may have been somebody that I thought was the one, or I thought we could make it work, or I thought I was invested in this situation. And it may be that you've grown and evolved beyond that version of you that resonated with a particular version of them, or through your own healing journey, you individually or this other person individually, your paths may have diverged to where they're not so interesting anymore. It's not so intriguing. You're not sucked back into that cycle as easily as you were. That in and of itself can provide almost the closure that you have been seeking, the ease with which you are able to kind of just ignore them, reject them, pass them by. This is in the event that like they're not a match for you anymore. You know, they turn back up, and the reality of this individual is a far cry from maybe the fantasy that you had, or just, you know, energetically speaking, it's dissonant with what you've cultivated within yourself, to where it's almost the idea of like one door closes, another very immediately opens for you. So trusting in kind of that element as well, that you've reached a point within your own journey that it feels like you'll be able to decipher in a way that might not have been possible for you before. What is that vibrational match? Again, that can apply to new people or someone from your past. And it feels like just trusting yourself that you won't fall victim to the same red flags or the same tactics someone from the past had used, either in a new connection or, again, the resurfacing of someone from before. For others, this idea of like mystery can indicate someone you've been at a distance from. You haven't heard from them. You don't know what's going on. It might have been kind of sort of like there's one more chance, one more opportunity. You know, the door's closing and I'm ready to move forth. You know, and for some of you, it may present itself that you are an even better vibrational match than you were before, because you both had that separate time apart. But it feels to be something to just kind of remain in the space where anything could happen. For better or worse, anything can happen. But you're at a very unique place in your own journey, to where whether you choose reconciliation with somebody, or it's almost like, you know, you get the vindication you were seeking, or it's something where you're just not even interested in participating in the same kind of back and forth that you once did. It feels like that is very liberating, to kind of push you away or close out some cycle of like the heart space is closed for spiritual maintenance, or where you've been very self-protective, you know, owning what you've brought to the table, what you've brought to the equation as far as love relationships that haven't necessarily worked out in your past. And so really trusting in the work that you've done, the ways in which you've culled your shadow or have sought to integrate that into your light. You know, you've brought knowledge to parts of yourself that, you know, maybe kind of allowed the wrong people in, or ways in which you were toxic that undermined connections in the past. Whatever that looks like for you, those combination of things, it feels that you've reached a level of empowerment with that, that especially when dealing with the shadow, there's so much there that it's, you know, a lifetime's worth of work. It's why we kind of pass things along to ourselves, and they go through the generations via the shadow, as far as like ancestral patterns, wounds, things that need to be healed and cleared. It is impossible to do all of that work in one lifetime, in 10 lifetimes, in 100 lifetimes. And so it's something that, to look at it as the whole, even just as you're feeling into it, or you're approaching it with kind of this nebulous idea of shadow work, that can feel very overwhelming, very daunting. It's very easy to get kind of like caught in a healing trap, which is sort of the indicator here that you've reached a very good place. You've accomplished a lot, in the sense that it's okay to kind of just put that aside, know that there'll be plenty to work on, you know, whenever you feel the need, or you're sort of, you know, motivated almost against your will to kind of deal with these things, you know, as life just kind of happens to you as time goes on. But it's a sense of like, at this particular point in your journey, again, there's this current of like a wave of love that is ready to kind of meet you, is ready to kind of take you to a different experience, take you to a different plateau. But if you're consumed with sort of, at this point in time, self-improvement, or, you know, working through things, fine-tuning things, you know, getting kind of lost in the details, and with whatever it is you've accomplished, maybe even some residual fears that are kind of jumping forth, like, did I do enough? Should I have done more? Am I really ready? Am I really equipped? Have I truly alchemized my pain into wisdom, so that I'm moving forth into new connections, or a renewed connection with somebody as a wiser version of me? You know, try as much as possible to kind of just still that mental chatter, you know, ground yourself if you need to, or learn to kind of just stand at that threshold and understand that any kind of trepidation that you're experiencing at this point in time, it's an indicator of like big change, you know, maybe in the form of like endings that lead to beginnings, or even like new love that comes in that is not a repeat of cycles you've been through, but is, you know, an indicator of something different that you've aligned with because of the work that you've done to align with something different within yourself. And this idea of channeling, you know, it really does indicate to trust in kind of the higher nudge that you have had to embark upon some kind of process of looking at You know, how can I heal my heart? How can I not just repeat cycles and patterns and kind of stay stuck in toxicity? Or how can I no longer kind of keep attracting the same partner? What can I do in order to make improvements for myself, to become the love I am seeking? And whatever you've done up to this point in time, it's almost a sense of congratulating yourself, trusting that if and when you kind of need to revisit things, you'll get that signal, you'll get that indicator. The universe will give you signs, or your own energy will kind of, it feels like for a lot of you, you've reached a place where it won't need to be something as dramatic as like tower moments. You'll kind of know that there's a need to kind of go in and refresh things or cleanse things, or, kind of chip away at more of that shadow when the time comes. But this is the energy of light here. This is almost the sense of you've transcended some heavy cycle, and it might almost be where you're just kind of running in place at this point in time, or just caught up almost in a pattern or a cycle in and of itself of self-improvement. And so the best thing you can do to open your heart to love is kind of work to sort of rewrite the script within yourself in a variety of ways, as far as new horizons, new goals that you've been working toward, new love, or a new type of dynamic with a current love or someone you've been dealing with. Not that there's a horizon or a point on the future where what you're seeking will happen, or kind of with enough work things will align, but it's almost the sense of like the time is now, allowing yourself to really just sort of sit in the reality and kind of reframe the notion that it's not off at a distant point. You may have relied on the idea of divine timing, and again, it's the sense of the time is now. And it may be that you are only feeling the energetic stirrings of that, which can lead to that sense of trepidation or anxiety, like, oh my gosh, what's coming in? What's happening? Am I ready for this? And it's because it's, getting ready to reveal itself to you, or a different version of you is kind of getting ready to step forth into the arms of love, or to receive someone that comes back from the past. Maybe they've done the work and you move forth on your journey together. Maybe they come forth and this new version of you kind of just leaps forth out of the shadow and puts an end to that, which puts you in proximity or alignment with kind of a different level of love that you've been seeking. It's almost something where you're just kind of at this point meant to surrender, move into a place of any action, any kind of goal-oriented efforts you've made up to this point in time. You've done an excellent job, and it's time to really understand that you are in the right place. It is the right time for a different type of love to find you. This is nothing you have to go out and pursue with these energies right here. It's almost like you're perfectly poised to receive. And so that's the biggest thing, is to just sit back and allow at this point. And with the idea with become your own sovereign, this again is kind of reinforcing the idea with this Vesica Pisces down here on this chalice, kind of the balancing of the masculine and feminine principles within yourself. You've accomplished that in a very beautiful way. You've become the yin to your own yang. And it may be very hard to see that because you could be so accustomed to kind of seeking that resonant soul outside of yourself, or again, kind of trying to over perfect, or getting lost in the details and the nuances of like big things as far as shadow work, ancestral clearing, personal patterns that you've broken through. And it's a sense of almost taking that time to kind of just celebrate the fact that you have learned very effectively to fill your own cup in a way that you were not doing, or were unaware was possible, or weren't capable of before. And so even just kind of taking some time to sort of bask in that reality, moving beyond any perceptions of sort of the celebration of self as an egoic manifestation in a very negative sense. There's an essence here of allowing yourself to feel the fullness of that ego, that personal pride that says, I did it. I transcended that version of myself, or, heartbreaks or obstacles in a variety of ways that could have kept me stuck in repeating patterns, or closed off to the idea of love altogether. And instead, you've chosen a different route. And however long you've been walking that path or walking that journey, you've reached a place at this point in time where you've made milestones that are within you. And as soon as you kind of sit in the reality of that, or just again take some time to celebrate you, it's almost like as within so without. It's right there ready to kind of emanate from you in a way, or almost kind of like a self-celebration puts you in this proper alignment for kind of the love that you're seeking to step forth to you. Or, past person, maybe they've done the work as well, and it's like you're meeting each other in this very empowered energy, and now it works. Now it's a lot more congruent than it was before. Now you've both done sort of the work on yourselves, and you've allowed yourselves, or you've compelled yourself to sort of step off that hamster wheel of the healing journey, or life lessons, or whatever it is that looks like. And then there's the opportunity to celebrate that coming together with one another, or it's something to where you celebrate that sort of victory of who you are, who you've kind of self-created, out of the pieces that were kind of left behind of versions of you from the past. And it might be that empowered version of you, this kind of present version of you that is able to neutralize anything toxic that tries to come in from the past. And every time you do that, even in your mind or through your actions, through just energetically saying, I will not tolerate this, I'm not getting wrapped back up in this same kind of game of cat and mouse, that sends a very clear signal to the universe that you are no longer interested in kind of just playing the same thing on repeat over and over again. That you have reached a place of empowerment or clarity within yourself. All you need to do is give the word, give the green light, and the universe will kind of deliver that new experience. The doorway will open for you to step forth into a place where you can become congruent with things that are a reflection of the healed version of you, rather than the healing version of you or the wounded version of you that you may have embodied in the past. And we also have soulcraft. So this is speaking about a good way to kind of, in a very practical sense, open your heart to love. If any of you use like vision boards, or you've been doing mantras, things that have really helped to kind of reprogram your own psyche, your own subconscious, this and kind of try to call in a certain vision of the life you'd like to experience, or a version of you that you're wanting to kind of call forth through your own kind of personal growth and healing practices. This might be a really good time to sort of close out or dismantle or revise any of those physical kind of like tools or implements or kind of guides that you have in order to direct your focus in a particular way. Because again, there's an essence of like, the time is now. You don't need to sort of seek toward the future or outside of yourself. Really, you've created that paradise within. And so this can kind of speak about reframing any sort of intentions that you set out more toward the sense of, I'm so grateful for where I am at this place right now. I know that I am in that perfect alignment, and kind of any day now, or right in this kind of particular space and time, what I have been working to cultivate within me, the resonant experience of that in a physical sense, in kind of direct 3D experiences. It's on its way, it's here, it's materializing at present. So it's very much kind of grounding yourself down into the present reality, maybe even sort of discontinuing mantras for a period of time, not having, again, that vision board for the future for a period of time where you're just allowing yourself to kind of settle into the present moment. Take a look around, tend to small things. If you need to kind of apply that energy of momentum somewhere, anything as far as like artistic endeavors, crafts that you can do, things around the house, just little kind of little things to sort of busy yourself, not while you're waiting in place for something to arrive, but it's almost the sense of, you've created this bubble of potency around you that emanates from within. And so there's no need to kind of forward project, because you are sitting in the midst of that divine timing. And so to direct your attentions at this point forward towards the future, you'd miss out on the opportunity of, kind of the vibration of love, the wave of love, the experience of love that's kind of around you, and just sort of looking for that looking for that outlet, making its way towards you, or even has started to, maybe announce itself already. And so, just keeping that focus a little closer to home, it feels like your heart is already open, essentially from a deep corridor within yourself, that once you kind of just discontinue a busyness and sort of sink deeply within, it feels like whatever has now been made ajar within you, it'll pour forth in a way that changes the vibe that you're giving out in a very pronounced way. And it will also send the signal to anything that's kind of in your peripheral that, you know, you're ready, you're open, you're available. And so it's kind of like right place, right time for a different sort of experience than you've had in the past, and something more in alignment with what you've been seeking overall. So I'm going to get a few little butterfly affirmation cards, and then I will get some initials to close out the reading. We have today, I choose hope. My intuition is strong and clear. I trust the voice within. Letting go creates space for me to receive. And everything happens according to divine timing and for the best results. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got H, F, Q, T, U, I, G, W, W, M, F, G, S, N, M, X, and D. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn, where I do channeled message readings related to topics other than love and romance. So if you're looking for something a little different from me, that's the place to find it. And there's a link to that channel in the description box of the video also. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the red Jasper heart. So I'm just going to be using oracle cards for this reading, and let's take a look and see what Spirit recommends as far as what you can do to open your heart, either to new love or to a renewal with your current partner, or even kind of to help along the energies of potential reconciliation with somebody that you are at a distance from. Okay, so we have Ragnarok, destruction, ending, final moment. Otherworld, veil, illness, transition. Find the middle ground, compromise. Become the master you seek. Expansion. And inward revolution. So The sense here with this Ragnarok energy and the other world indicates that there may be some kind of residual energy of almost putting somebody on a pedestal that they don't deserve to be on, or that they haven't earned, or that in some way takes away from your personal power. This may be somebody that you're holding space for in order for them to return. It's giving kind of the vibes of like a twin flame dynamic, where you've been in maybe a prolonged runner chaser energy, and you've been, kind of trying to hold space for another person to sort of see the light or deal with their own shadow. And it may have been something that was very well intentioned before, but it's kind of reached a place where now it's become toxic. Now it is just sort of you feeding light into a situation, or holding the light in a situation for somebody who may not be interested in change or growth, somebody who may not in fact even be a twin flame, but could have just been somebody you resonated with due to a level of wounding or toxicity within yourself, that once you sort of clear those things away, or even the idea of like, if you encountered this person again, or they came back into your life, you would understand fundamentally that a more healed or self-aware version of you is not and never was a counterpart or a match to somebody else. And so it feels to be something where it's almost appropriate for you to kind of de-escalate maybe the vibrations of love you are sending toward another person, the idea of holding space for someone, or even any sort of fixation you may have at like reconciliation, twin flame union, maybe even sort of questioning the notion of, do I resonate with the twin flame experience and journey truly? Or is this something that has perhaps kind of led into, fantasy, or something that it has become toxic in the sense of it's consuming a lot of you, or again, kind of taking away personal power from a state of, even if you consider yourself to be on a twin flame journey, the purpose of connections like that, first and foremost, is personal growth and expansion. It's not about giving our power away to another person. It's in fact about unlocking a deeper degree of personal power within ourselves that is often only able to be accessed kind of with no other choice being given, except through some kind of cataclysmic, destruction of the illusions within self, the intensity of what's kind of unlocked or activated through an experience with who we perceive to be our twin flame, and then kind of the journey that one goes on, the inevitable running and chasing, everything that kind of comes along with that energetically and spiritually. And it may be something where it's almost like you've learned the lesson from that situation, or you've kind of reached a place where you have this raw power within you that it just sort of siphons your ability to call in true resonance, true joy for yourself, because you're fixated in, or maybe become embroiled in, concepts of like twin flames as this ultimate fairy tale, this complete happily ever after, when in fact they are highly destructive connections. It's the idea of the phoenix from the ashes. In order to become that, one must self-immolate or burn to the ground utterly and rise from that. That is not something that is an experience practically, realistically, that is in keeping with like a high vibrational love. It stems from the triggering of toxicity within two individuals, and then really is a tale about the dynamic of free will within the earth plane. Yes, sometimes both people can choose to work through things and kind of rise and elevate, and then it's almost like two phoenixes meeting each other on that higher plane and plateau. Often it is one person chooses to remain within that toxic pattern, and the other person either keeps going round that merry-go-round with them, or at a certain point in time takes back that personal power, spreads their wings, flies in a different direction. thanks the experience or the person, or that time and place for what it had to offer. But it's really about personal empowerment within self first and foremost. Romance being very much a secondary thing, and based on the nature of those kind of energies, it's something which you must grow and evolve into a place of being capable of holding and sustaining the intensity of those energies and vibrations and experiences within yourself first and foremost, then adding in that another person has to also go through the gauntlet in different ways in order to be able to come that kind of strengthened and clarified vessel within themselves to be able to harness and sort of utilize in a constructive manner rather than a destructive manner those higher, intense, very unique frequencies that are defined as kind of the twin flame dynamic. And so it may be something where the best thing that you can do at this point in time is to sort of take a step back from the idea of that, or again, any ways in which you've sort of been holding the light, keeping the door open. Even if you're sort of saying on a practical level, I'm over that, I'm over that twin flame, I'm moving on, I'm ready to kind of meet with someone else, experience someone else. There may be a part of you that almost has kind of like left the door open a crack. What if they change? What if something's different? What if in the period of silence that we've been in, they have gone through some kind of miraculous process and they are now on the same plane or plateau as I am, when it feels with these kind of introductory sort of energies here that it's like, even if this other person may have sort of done the work, you're like diverged in two different directions. It may be something where you're needing to redefine who you thought was a twin flame as perhaps a catalyst or a karmic connection. Something that really just served to illustrate and highlight for you ways in which you've needed to go within and kind of, self-reflect, heal, something that almost may have given you no choice save for the intensity of the experience to kind of go in and do some sort of deep shadow work, ascension, maybe a spiritual awakening that was kick-started by the experience of another person. It feels like the benefit is to sort of you first and foremost, but there may be a holding on even energetically to the idea of a twin flame, or if you don't resonate with that kind of notion, it can almost indicate here with all of this sort of fiery energy and the idea of like an inward revolution, that you might really be benefited by kind of going through and doing some cord cutting, through meditation or maybe in some kind of ritualistic manner, sort of burning away those cords which tie you to toxic timelines, toxic versions of yourself that may have, given your power away in a well-meaning capacity, but nevertheless in a sense that led to kind of over giving to a situation or a person, even if it was just holding on to kind of grief and resentment and anger over situations that justifiably may have made you feel these things. It's almost like part of you is still tethered to that. Part of you is still feeding into that in a way that it's just sapping your energy, or it's draining your energy, or it's become almost like a distortion, maybe even something with this underworld energy that's kind of, it's within the shadow, it's within kind of the subconscious, it's swimming around in your psychic soup in a way that you can't see it necessarily, but it's still there. It's almost a distortion that's been created, or, kind of even a hesitancy after maybe what you've been through. If you've been through the twin flame experience, through a twin flame journey, and you're ready for love again, there may be a sense of like, I have evolved spiritually. I seek something on a deep spiritual level, but once bitten, twice shy. I don't want to go through that again. I can't lose myself in the same way that you may have lost yourself to the concept or idea or experience with someone that may or may not have been a twin flame. And it's a barricade. It's something within that is almost, you've reached a place, you have the potential to reach a place that's almost a return to innocence, but it requires kind of a thorough evacuation, not only of sort of, whatever you've needed to work on, whatever that's been illuminated for you, as far as like life changes or up leveling, but there's a sense of almost like these undercurrents of attachment that don't serve in the sense that they hold back or hinder or just bring forth a degree of pessimism that isn't conducive for sort of like the most expansive that you can be. This kind of Merkaba here is you know, the chariot, the vehicle of the soul. You're ready for something different. You're ready for that higher level love where you have the capability to kind of embark upon that path. But if you continue holding the door open for an individual from your past, individuals plural, you know, kind of everything negative that you've experienced in love before, if you keep clinging so tightly to the idea of almost a laundry list of these are the things I don't want to experience again, and that is predominant in your energy, it's not that you'll magnetize them in, it's almost like you're closing yourself off to alignment with something different, with something better. And there may be a fear as well of like, if I don't remain very kind of alert, very cognizant, very fixated, either on the idea of like a particular person and sort of however you're invested in the notion of like a reconciliation, or if it's something where you wouldn't want them back, but maybe you're still clinging to, you know, the heartbreak and the hurt of what they put you through or what you put yourself through, or some kind of combination of those things. You know, it's something to where there may be a fear of like, if I sort of like those who, you know, do not remember are doomed to repeat history. There may be a little of that doom and gloom thinking here. And there's a sense here of almost kind of with the idea of become the master that you seek. The biggest thing that you can do is kind of build that trust within that, you know, you're not the same person that you once were. You've been through things. You've done what you needed to do in order to endure those things. You know, you've worked with kind of the information and experience you've had at the time. You know, maybe for some of you, there's a bit of bitterness as far as like a twin flame journey, a twin flame experience that you've kind of moved beyond. And there's a sense of, if I had known then what I know now, my life would be very different, or it wouldn't have kind of gotten derailed. I wouldn't have lost years of my life kind of fixated on a particular person or an idea. And so there may be, you know, a bit of anger as far as that is concerned, where it's creating like a hyper vigilance, having evolved spiritually, wanting that spiritual connection, but almost being too much on the alert to not fall into the same trap. It may even be that you've kind of encountered someone, you've met somebody, and there are stirrings of like a deep kind of spiritual bond happening, and it may be triggering something within of, I can't go back down that road again with another person. I remember how I lost myself, or the arduous journey to kind of overcome, or to, you know, become that phoenix from the ashes. And so it's something that it's almost like the type of love that you are now capable of experiencing through what it feels to be sort of, you know, a lot of things falling apart, or even the idea of a particular person, a special someone, you know, a twin flame, and maybe it's kind of gotten to the point where you have no choice but to kind of close the door to that, and it may be the essence of like, you've grown, you've evolved, you've changed, and yet that narrative very much haunts you. And it's a sense of almost trusting that your experiences in that capacity, you've crystallized a lot of that into wisdom within yourself. That is something which is immutable. It cannot be taken away. Yes, you can choose to overlook red flags as they present themselves to you, but it feels, if you're resonating with these energies, you at least have some working understanding or familiarity with, you know, signs, synchronicities, your own intuition, vibes, kind of like bad vibes versus something that feels very kind of conducive. You know, the energy of almost like a chaotic or a kinetic or, you know, static that can almost be the case sometimes in twin flame dynamics, versus kind of something that might feel intense and yet there's a groundedness to it. There's a sense of almost as a kind of a representation of a healthier spiritual connection, something that brings peace as opposed to destructive energies. And there may be sort of a sense of fearing that you'll miss something, you'll overlook something, you'll kind of fall victim to ideas or, you know, energies within, you know, sort of the same scenario again playing out with another person that may have really been a struggle to sort of get through, or even a fear of like, if I let this twin flame go, if I let this person that I've kind of been invested in go, am I going to miss the love of my life? Am I going to miss that deep, you know, spiritual connection that I was promised in all the tarot readings I was watching, and what everybody is kind of talking about of, you know, union and reunion, and it's in the air, and if you just do the work and they're doing the work and everything will work out great. You may be at a point in your journey where it's almost taking that idea of that higher level love but trusting yourself to kind of break free from, the notions or the definitions or sort of what you've kind of been involved in that capacity, and trusting that you're ready to sort of transcend beyond that. It's not like it's twin flame or nothing as far as deep, soul-fulfilling spiritual connection, but it's almost like a hesitation to let go, and it feels like a hesitation of repeating patterns. So kind of this idea, again, of like find the middle ground and compromise. It feels like for a lot of you, this may be a time to sort of, pack your bags and wish well the experience of like a twin flame journey, what that has taught you, what that has opened up for you, the opportunities for you. It feels like with this energy, this would be even probably wise not to sort of step away from the notion of that or a particular person, even if you're not like thinking of it in terms of twin flame, but somebody where it's just you've been in a lot of back and forth. It's kind of been the best and worst connection of your life, something where it's just obvious patterns, obvious cycles, something where you just can't seem to really break ground into anything new with this individual, or it like works for a while and then it falls apart, and something where it's almost like time is ticking, your life is passing you by, and you're not experiencing the love you are worthy of and deserving of, because there's almost like you've grown and evolved, but you're still participating with somebody, or the idea of somebody, or the idea of somebody being something particular as far as like a soulmate or a twin flame, that's just, it's depriving you of the opportunity to truly experience kind of the best of what these ideas or these concepts or your fantasies or your hopes are as embodied in like another person. So for a lot of you, this is either something where there's a need to kind of trust that what you've gone through has empowered you enough within that when you're presented with new love, or even somebody new you're starting to get to know, and maybe there's a little bit of fear and hesitation, anxiety, like, oh my gosh, is this going to just be a repeat of what I've just come out of, that can really indicate kind of that, some kind of cords that are tying you to, sort of the darkness that you experience, the, traumatic experience on an existential level, on an emotional level, on a psychic level, on a spiritual level, on an energetic level, on a practical level for some, with whatever has been kind of your journey up to this point in time, that it's almost a sense of intervention for yourself in the form of like cord cutting, or even just becoming very honest, like a brutal honesty with yourself. The idea of become the master you seek is kind of a tough love with yourself, that it may be time to really just say enough is enough. I feel this higher level connection with an individual, but in the 3D there is no change. Nothing is different. And so no longer kind of giving your power away to the idea of holding space, but really, kind of practicing what is preached within concepts like that, of sort of working to clear things, healing things, embodying that kind of divine feminine or divine masculine energy, that higher level self. The most loving version of self does not squander or sort of give away easily access to that kind of higher purity that is cultivated or refined or experienced within. So this is all about kind of knowing your worth and value, having raised the price of admission to your life, to your energy, as far as what you allow to kind of fill your time, occupy a space within your head rent-free, and you may need to become very brutal in the ways in which you discontinue certain things from taking up so much of that precious energy. Even if it's the idea of holding out hope for a person, keeping the door open just a little, it disempowers at this particular point. And it feels like doing that again in a way that may be very kind of like cutting it off cold turkey, things that you may need to do as far as, blocking somebody on social media, or again, like cord cutting rituals and meditations can be very effective in kind of just removing those sort of energetic residues, those tendrils, those barriers that sort of keep you from the understanding that yes, you've been through an experience, but you are stronger because of that. You are more empowered because of that. And you are now at a place where you're able to embody that empowered energy, which doesn't sit, which doesn't wait, which doesn't settle. You know, your kind of like your own value has increased, and anything that is sort of like holding space for the return of something from the past, or even kind of like anger, resentment, and grudges towards a person from the past that, you know, didn't change, let you down, or you're seeing them or the situation clearly for what they are. There's a sense here of like, feel those feelings, but with the intention of releasing them in a very kind of clean, efficient, and quick manner, because you're now in a very unique space to where, you know, there's the ability to transcend. There's the ability to experience a deeper level, you know, spiritual bond with another person, maybe somebody that's already in your life, somebody that's coming in, somebody that's like on that next timeline, that all it requires is for you to kind of just cut off this dead weight, you know, release the anchor that is holding you down, you know, step away and sort of discontinue the notion that the past in any way has like an effect on who you are presently and who you choose to be in the future. And it feels like that in and of itself will open the gates to your heart in a way that they may have been closed very necessarily, in a self-protective manner, in a way in which even you instinctually may have kind of known, especially the more that you healed and grew and evolved, that whoever you could have identified as your twin flame before, that they were just kind of, they resonated with a toxic or unhealed version of you. And so the more you healed, it might have almost been kind of something where you put up barricades within yourself, because your higher self, you know, the true love within yourself understood this other person is not that frequency and match to the best version of me. They are a frequency match, or they align with, or maybe are kind of resonant with a wounded version of me, a toxic version of me, you know, a very kind of a version stuck in stasis, and you've created something kinetic, or you have the ability to do that. And so it requires just being very, very blunt in the ways in which you say no more. Energetically, literally, you may need to do that. It may be that somebody that you've been in a back and forth with is kind of coming back around, and it's this opportunity to say, am I going to go along this same merry-go-round, or am I getting off the ride and heading in another direction? And it feels that in and of itself, kind of this abrupt closure or a release of something, you know, a purging of something from your energies, allows you to kind of move into a space where you can gradually start to feel it's safe for me to be in the energy of receptivity, because the vibration of what I'm surrounding myself with, even the notion of like watching, you know, tarot readings about twin flames, or, you know, what people are up to and if reconciliation's happening, it's almost an energy of kind of toxicity or desperation, or again, kind of giving power away that may be clogging something within you, that like you're ready to experience a safe love. You're ready to experience something that you don't have to prove your worth to. You don't have to kind of put your life on hold for someone else to figure out the meaning and value that you hold for them. But if you're still kind of holding space or surrounding yourself in sort of one environment, you're feeding your mind, you're feeding your energy with sort of the notion of lack or standing still, utilizing the precious gift of life to kind of hold space for another person that may or may not care, may or may not have ever cared. You know, it's something where it's almost a disservice to the opportunity that you have been given in this lifetime to live it to the fullest. And so it may be a very tough decision. There's almost a sense of like a mourning period that you may have to do. You know, you could be needing to like mourn this situation as you would like the passing of a loved one, for example, and anything that you feel inclined to do in that capacity, you know, cord cutting or just closing the door to something that may lead to kind of those stages of grief, that period of grief, needing to purge it all out of your energy. You're encouraged to sort of follow that, trust your instincts, that when you make a declaration and you turn your attention in another particular way that kind of your subtle bodies will clear out what they need to. Things that kind of exist within you energetically that you can't perceive, that you can't access, but you're ready to do that. It's time to do that for a lot of you, you know, because there is, again, this kind of like expansion. There's this inward revolution beyond what you've known, beyond kind of the ways in which you've been dealing with another person romantically, or the idea of romantic love, or even the idea of like spiritual level connections. You've completed some kind of cycle. You're ready to break through that glass ceiling into something very different. But it's like only you can do it. You can't kind of hold space for both. I'm ready for the new, but I'm still angry at this other person. I'm ready for the new, but what if they return? I'm ready for the new, but I'm scared to let go, because what if that's the exact moment they come back? There's like a decision that needs to be made. There's no more ability to ride the fence at this particular stage, because there's something so much more beautiful available to you, or just kind of a path that you are now prepared or invited to walk on, that will have its ups and downs, because that's the nature of life, but it feels like won't bring quite the same level of almost eliciting kind of a toxic or an unhealed version of you that then calls in kind of resonant experiences with other people. It's like you're ready to shed, you know, a version of you and corresponding ideas that may have really even led to your progression along a spiritual path, along a journey of wellness and healing. But it's like you've reached that place of wellness, and so it's time to kind of just put aside, you know, release and don't look back at whatever it was that sort of instigated or inspired or necessitated that you reach this level of, I know there's higher level love out there. It's almost like that's the complete sentence in and of itself. And, you know, these energies are indicating that it's available for you, but in kind of a different direction than you've been focused presently. So get some butterfly affirmation cards, and then I'm going to get some initials to close out the reading. Okay, and we have everything happens according to divine timing and for the best results. Nothing is impossible for the heart. Love will always find a way. In my heart, I know that good things are coming my way. And I am valuable. Many people are thankful for my presence in their lives. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, we've got U, J, L, B, A, N, E, F, E, Y, I, Q, C, P, and F. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn, where I do channeled message readings related to topics other than love and romance. So if you're looking for something a little different from me, that is the place to find it. And there is a link to that in the description box of the video also. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the Aventurine heart. So I'm just going to be using oracle cards for this reading, and let's take a look at what Spirit wants you to know as far as what you can do to open your heart to love, either new love if you're single, or to deepen your relationship with a current partner. Okay, we have Initiate, Curious, Open, Warm. King of the Darkwood Elves, Authority, Credibility, Status. Run Wild for a While. Sacred Journey, Pilgrimage. Awakening. And Enlightenment. So there's a sense here with running wild, pilgrimage, and even the idea of openness and curiosity with the initiate, that some of you may need to get out of the house, go and have fun, break out of your patterns or your habits, something that you may need to deliberately kind of carve time out in your schedule to do, because there's an essence here of almost you are in a very magnetic energy at this particular point in time, but if you just sort of cloister yourself, at home, or maybe you're very busy, or you've just kind of been going around in circles in like the same familiar places, trying to even meet people maybe through the same sort of means. Maybe you're on dating apps, or you're kind of just standing there sort of hoping that someone will find you, come upon you, discover you to no avail. There's almost a sense of taking a leap of faith or a risk, or some degree of like impulsivity. If you have a sudden urge to take a day trip somewhere, take a vacation somewhere, change up your routine. This can even speak about changing your physical appearance in some sort of way. Getting a makeover, changing your wardrobe, doing something you would not ordinarily do. This is all very conducive to kind of breaking out of some degree of monotony and allowing kind of this very magnetic energy that you hold within to be appreciated, reciprocated by other people in a way that it's almost like you have all the makings for sort of a raising of your own self-esteem, or experiences perhaps for some of you of like meeting a compatible partner, which in and of itself, when you align with this individual, it feels like it'd be very natural and organic. Your heart would just open. You have all of that going for you, but it's behind closed doors, or there's a sense of almost just kind of watching and waiting, which is giving off kind of a vibe of being closed, a vibe of being very sheltered. There's a timidness to this, that kind of is indicating sort of a turning of those tables to even not be afraid to sort of just stand in your independence. Maybe some of you have been focused too much on like seeking and finding, a match, someone to date, love, romance, and there's a need to kind of break free from those boundaries by really just embracing your singleness, or making a decision to kind of discontinue the search for love, and that might be just the key that is necessary to again draw something into you, or perhaps even somebody that has been kind of waiting in the wings, watching, but you're giving off some sort of vibe of seeking, looking outside of self, or again kind of just caught in some sort of pattern, routine, a monotony within self that may have absolutely nothing to do with love. Maybe you're, stressed out, you're busy at work, you've got other things kind of going on in your life, and there may be a desire or a hope, or kind of a want to meet someone special, experience love and romance, but you're containing at this particular point in time the magnetic frequency that would be almost the signal to call that in for yourself. So it's moving into more of an active polarity, but rather than sort of being very assertive or very dominant, or kind of just being the one to like approach or make that first move, there's a need to almost step into sort of a fiery feminine energy where you're really owning who you are, flaws and all. You're willing to sort of walk alone, stand alone, rather than sort of like settle or give off kind of a vibration of constantly seeking. There's something within that, like an innate energy, even kind of like a charisma within self that is waiting to be pronounced or professed in a more direct manner than you have. This could have been something where you've been cultivating a lot, intellectually, financially, spiritually, but there's almost like a chemistry, a personal magnetism, a degree of sexiness that you're encouraged to kind of bring to the table, more to the forefront of who you are, even in the sense of being very bold and kind of deviating from any sort of patterns that you have kind of gotten stuck in. There's something very sexy about that, of being just willing to kind of follow your instincts in a different direction, to not be tied and tethered to convention. It brings forth an empowerment of sovereignty within self that it feels like is the key to kind of drawing in experiences, or attention that it feels like very organically will kind of just tickle your heart awake. This isn't really the idea and the essence and the energy here of anything that's so much locked that needs to be open, because maybe you've been very diligent even with like heart chakra meditations, and you've cleared some things away. You've done that work within self. You've built yourself or rebuilt yourself or kind of elevated to a particular sort of experience within your life. You're living your best life, but there's this sense of almost just, there's a part of you that is kind of this core frequency that is that kind of magnetism within, that for all of these other accomplishments or accolades or things that you've really kind of cultivated within, there's almost like a fiery softness and intensity that needs to be allowed to kind of just flow in a more free manner. And that'll be unique for everybody, kind of what that involves. It can even just be, again, something as simple as doing something very unexpected, going somewhere you wouldn't normally go, wearing that outfit that you were saving for the special occasion, making a special occasion, finding an occasion to do that, and really sitting and saturating yourself in, the attention, the admiration that you get. Maybe somebody approaches you and, there's the romance that you were seeking. You just never know. There's a sense of almost indulging in that, more of a sensuality, filling those five senses with kind of anything that you are drawn towards in order to really bring you more deeply into your body in a very tactile fashion. Something for a lot of you, you may have again been focused on financial things, emotional work, deep shadow work that you've been doing, and it may even be something where you've broken through a chrysalis or a cocoon, but rather than kind of just going forth with like the heaviness or sort of the weightedness or even, the aftermath of what may have been a very exhausting process, there's a sense of starting very simply to cultivate a softness within yourself in whatever way that makes you feel very empowered. So again, this is speaking about kind of like changing things about the physicality, your environment, maybe even like people that you're normally hanging around with. If you have groups of friends that you go out with hoping to meet people, this might be an encouragement for you to start to go somewhere else by yourself, not even with the intention of I'll meet someone, but just I'm going to march to the beat of my own drum for a while. I'm going to separate my energy from other people who may be sort of putting out a different vibe, and then my vibe is kind of lost in the mix, or we're not looking for the same things, or someone that might really be meant for me or resonate with me might be intimidated to approach if there's like a group of people all around, things of that nature, to where it's stepping beyond a comfort zone, something that you're almost like most afraid to do, or that would feel like, oh, it's so uncomfortable, I couldn't do that. For some of you, this is like you have your eye on someone though, and you've been kind of waiting for them to make the move, and the sexiest thing that you can do is approach them first, say something first, cross that threshold instead of just holding in place and kind of watching and waiting, bring forth that sort of fiery energy that then kind of can give a very direct signal to somebody that you are not afraid to go after what it is that you want, and you have a level of intensity to bring to the table, to where the heart space, it feels like, is already open, or it's open enough with the work that you've been doing, and you might not be able to see that, because this is almost the sense here of someone who may have been on a very detailed, long-term, rigorous, or you've been very diligent about its self-love journey, and you've reached a place of like, you've cultivated that within. And the way to open the heart at this point in time is you're going to need somebody else. Somebody else is going to have to come and reciprocate that. And you may be very aware of that, but whatever sort of the mindset or the energy or the momentum that you've applied up to this point in time to kind of become that better or best version of self, love yourself utterly, flaws and all. It's almost something, a need to kind of shift gears in a different direction, sort of take your foot off the gas and kind of just coast or cruise in a different sort of way, honoring sort of what it took to kind of get to this point within yourself. Parts of you that may have really evolved through this process, but in order to kind of, it feels like, call in or magnetize in this instance, it's almost like love or admiration or romance from another person is what opens that heart. You've done what you could at this point in time to kind of reach this place of, okay, I'm liking myself more than I did. I'm liking my life more than I used to. I've cleared away of toxicity. I've evolved beyond certain things. I'm aware of my own sort of patterns, and I've worked to course correct, or I'm mindful of these things. I call my shadows by their name, and so I'm not as easily kind of duped by them, or they're not subverting good things. All of that has been accomplished very deeply, but it's a sense here of almost awakening to the notion that you may be putting out too much of like an action-oriented vibe, even in the sense of like, if you fall into that category where you've been waiting like for a crush to make a first move, for example, and sort of the thing that you need to do is, instead of dropping hints, be more direct. It may be something where the idea of being coy, or kind of just waiting for this other person, sort of waiting in a state of tension, like, okay, there's chemistry, are they going to do something? Okay, I sense that there's flirtation, there's maybe something that could develop here, but I'm going to kind of wait for them to make the first move. If you've kind of just been watching each other at kind of arm's length for a while, this may be something where it's almost like you need to be bold and kind of put yourself out there. And that might be absolutely what sort of brings forth that resonant experience with another person, that is sort of the thing which awakens you to the reality that your heart is already open. However, you've only kind of built or been able to cultivate so deep of an experience of love, like elusiveness of love with another person, because this really feels to resonate with people that might be single, or even something where, like, if you're in a relationship, you've reached a plateau and it's almost the energy of, where is this going? Are we just going to continue on sort of in a rut? There's a need to add some degree of spiciness into the situation, do something very unexpected, be very proactive in kind of making changes that you wish to experience. And it feels that this is something that, if you're dealing with a partner presently, they may be surprisingly receptive in terms of what they feed back into you, opens up or brings forth more of the essence of love than has existed between the two of you up to this point in time, or than you thought this person was capable of. They may be waiting for you to kind of step into that boldness, which gives them the instinctual signal to kind of, do something different as well. Or it feels more likely that this is kind of people that are single, sort of in between relationships, or may have been single for a while, and you're like, okay, I've now reached a place where I'm ready for love with another person. Where are they? And there's a sense of, without even knowing it, you've kind of just, you've broken through something, or you're embodying that energy of self-love, but you're still just walking the same track that you needed to establish, the same path you forged for yourself to kind of make this ascension, to reach this enlightened space of, I now understand the necessity of becoming the love that I seek first and foremost, in order to have that reciprocated with another person. And it feels very like tangible, situational as far as those changes. It's not a change necessarily in a mindset. It's almost just creating an action step in a way that is very spontaneous, puts you in alignment either with the right time, right place, where that love you have been seeking aligns with you, or it changes something within your vibration that kind of like signals to others or signals to the universe that you are not just making the statement of, I'm ready for love, I'm ready to put myself back out there, I'm ready to experience something different, something else. But it's like you're taking steps in other ways outside of a comfort zone. And that brings forth kind of this essence of you're putting your money where your mouth is, essentially. You are not just beseeching the universe to sort of send you that higher vibrational love, but you're willing to kind of break free from things that have become ordinary or routine within yourself and kind of how you're living your life on a day-to-day basis, which is that kind of confirmation that the universe needs that you are in fact ready for change. And it feels like if you've been, you've reached a point where you've kind of mastered a self-love journey, you've created a lot of healthy changes for yourself, it's almost like the universe wants to deliver you that transcendent level love from what you may have experienced in your past. But if you're still, again, walking that same track that has become well established or deeply rooted for you, that brought you to this level of excellence within your life in a lot of other ways, then it's almost like that transcendent love doesn't have an inlet for you, because the focus has been so self-directed. You've been loving yourself, and so you need to kind of expand that territory, step beyond that kind of threshold, which then allows sort of this wide world or universe of possibilities, or even somebody, that's kind of like a destined or fated connection that once you step beyond kind of those boundaries and barriers, if it's someone watching from afar, they have the opportunity to approach. If there's kind of nobody watching from afar, then this is the sense of you're stepping into a new level in terms of a change within routine, different kind of energies and experiences. The sense even of personal exhilaration or fulfillment in whatever it is that you embark upon that's outside of the ordinary. If it's traveling and kind of enriching yourself with different experiences, or doing something different with your appearance so you feel a different way when you look in the mirror. Whatever it is that yields for you or it inspires for you, it sends a very direct message. I'm ready for something different. It's not just making that statement. It's not just setting that intention. It's not just on a vision board somewhere. It's almost like you've cultivated that change within, and now it's kind of like as within, so without. You've done all of that within. There's need to kind of do something situationally that is the reverberation of that outside appearance, that outside routine. Customarily, where it is that you've sort of sought love in the past that may have been successful or unsuccessful. For some of you, this can even involve, if you've been on a spiritual journey and a process of kind of up-leveling within, and you're seeking romance, like on a dating website, for example, you're not going to align with higher level connections. You're going to align with people that maybe are more rooted in sort of 3D or mundane expectations and perceptions. What they bring to the table isn't the same as what you bring to the table. So it's going to be a mismatch. It's going to be something where you're not going to, kind of find something deep and fulfilling because you're not meant to in those environments. So this can even be something, again, where it's like, not holding on so tightly to the idea of I'm lonely and I want someone, or even if you've transcended that, you're comfortable sort of, with your own company. There's still kind of a degree of almost like, okay, now where's that other person? Now I'm ready for love. Where's that other person? Well, they exist somewhere beyond kind of whatever the routine is, whatever you've kind of gotten stuck within, sort of the physical manifestation of the version of you that has kind of been going through this process of up-leveling. There's a need to kind of change the shell that you are occupying in some way. That can be kind of the shell that makes up the nexus of your reality, or it can even be something like in terms of the body, physical, or how you're presenting yourself, that just it rejuvenates. It brings forth a degree of magnetism, of fecundity within yourself, something where, you're looking at you and there's a difference there, but it feels more inviting than it had before. So small changes, it feels like in this instance, can really kind of send out a different type of signal that calls into you experience with another person, or even just a different sort of wave of romance, where then maybe you're having to turn people down. You're getting to be more selective, more choosy, rather than sort of just waiting for that kind of one resonant soul, that one person. And that might in and of itself be something which kind of helps you to understand that you've done an excellent job of kind of pouring into your own cup, but you've reached a level of your journey where that openness requires the participation with another, and it's something that you can very easily align with if you just step beyond your comfort zone in a variety of ways. So I'm going to get some butterfly affirmation cards, and then I'll close the reading out with some initials. And we have, it is easy for me to attract all that I need into my life. I do this by relaxing and trusting that things are going to work out perfectly. Even when things aren't perfect or don't seem to be working out, I choose to trust in life. When I don't know what's happening, I choose to be curious and excited about what is going to be. And life doesn't have to be perfect in order for me to choose happiness. Today, I choose happiness. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, we have K, R, H, G, Y, Q, G, T, Z, P, U, and W. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn, where I do channeled message readings related to topics other than love and romance. So if you're looking for something a little different from me, that's the place to find it. And there's a link to that channel in the description box of the video also. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.